So I wanted to make a quick 2025 recap, walking here at the place where I'm from in Austria. I'm gonna fly back to Dubai in a couple of hours. And 2025 was the best year of my entire life by far. And I want to share the 6 most important lessons that I learned this year and this one reason why 2025 was a way better year than all my other 24 years of my life that I had before that. But I'll quickly jump into the car now and continue there. Why 2025 was my best year so far, financially, emotionally, within my relationships, and within my lifestyle. So, lesson number one was when you focus on creating value for other people instead of making money for yourself, you will not only be happier, but also make way more money for yourself. And that was probably one of the most profound lessons I ever learned. And I, in the past, always just tried to make more money for myself to invest, live a good life, travel the world, impress women, impress friends, all of these things, drive fast cars. And maybe for some people that works, but for me, it never worked too well, and it always felt very exhausting and very hard. And at the beginning of this year, I had this notion. I just switched my complete belief system and what I optimized for by 180 degrees. And I completely forgot about how much money do I make and how much money do I want to make next month. I completely forgot about that. I did not think about it at all. And instead, I started to think about how can I help my clients more? How can I help the people I work with achieve their goals better and faster? So I started to optimize for them and for the solution of their problems, right? That's what I started to optimize for. And this changed everything because that over time became the only thing that I was thinking about. I was not thinking about myself and my own goals anymore. And funnily through that, the money I myself made, it more than tripled in a very short period of time, over a few months after a belief change. And that's lesson number one, ladies and gentlemen. And it sounds counterintuitive. It sounds paradox. I get it. But that is just what happened for me. And I truly believe that the same thing or something similar will happen for most of you if you do that. If you forget about how much money you make and you just focus on providing more value to the people you work with, the money will always follow you, will always find you and flow towards you in abundance. And this might now sound a little crazy. I get it. And you might now think that I'm a little stupid. I get that. But just try it out. Just try to be the one who provides the most value in your specific market, in the realm you operate in. Just try to be the one who provides the most freaking value. And then after your recap, and please tell me if you didn't make significantly more money as well through that. And if you didn't feel significantly more content, more relaxed, and way better, because you actually do your best at helping the people you work with. And through that, you actually create value. Okay? So that's actual wealth creation. That's actual value creation that you do. And that's the first thing. It was stopping to thinking about myself so much and starting to think about others, starting to think not only about providing value for others, because here's the next thing that's a sub-learning from this one. You will always have to solve problems, and either you solve your own problems, which might be, how to pay for that fancy apartment, maybe even how to pay for that fancy dinner, right? Maybe how to pay for that car that you want. Either you think about those, and that's annoying to think about these things. I have been there. I've been thinking about all of these things, and it is annoying, I know it. So either you do that and think about these problems, or you think about the problems of business owners. That could be your clients, like in my case, right? I work with e-commerce business owners, 8-figure business owners, and I think about their problems all day long. Like, okay, how can we increase customer retention? How can we improve that funnel? How can we fix that conversion rate, right? And these are problems too, but I enjoy it more to think about them because it's more like game to me. And through thinking about these problems all day long of how to fix the business machine of a client, I don't have to think about problems of my own because I don't have any, right? Because through providing so much freaking value, I and really helping my ecom partners to make additional millions in revenue, I always make on average at least like 10% off of that, right? So I'm pretty good. So I don't have to think about how to pay for that fancy car, how to pay for the nice apartment. Like I don't have to think about these things anymore because I chose to solve other problems for rich business owners or just 8-figure business owners, right? I just chose to think about those problems because you will always have problems. And we as humans are kind of made to solve problems, right? And it's fine. It's just choose your problems wisely. I rather think about how to fix that funnel. It makes more fun to think about that versus how can I pay the lease for my car? How can I pay my next rent? These are not so fun problems to think about. And I have thought about them in the past year, so I know how it feels. And I can tell you from my own experience that it is no fun to think about these problems, okay? So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the first learning. Lesson number 2 I learned this year was instead of focusing on the goal all the time, rather focus on the movement towards the goal. And I have to admit, I did not invent that. I read that in a book and I applied it this year, and it completely changed my life. It completely changed my productivity and my progress towards reaching the goals I have. And this might at first sound a little silly, but what it actually means is that usually we have a goal and we might have a big goal. For example, I want to help my clients make an extra 10 million euros in revenue in the next 90 days. That was one of my 90-day goals that I had this year. And I got very close to achieving it, way closer than I thought. Anyways, but I got so close thanks to this method here, right? So not thinking about the goal itself, but rather thinking about the movement towards the actual goal. And that means that you should not put this number, this 10 million, on a pedestal and obsess with the number all day long, because everything you put on a pedestal and you glorify becomes hard to reach, right? The more you want that Rolex, the harder it will be to get it. The more you want that girl, the harder it will be to get it. What does that mean? So in order to achieve 10 million euros in added client revenue, I have to do some things. I have to accomplish some tasks. I have to do actual work, talk to people, analyze stuff, map out strategies, execute strategies, train people, all of these things, make sure things are being executed as they should be executed, right? So all of these things that need to be done. And that's the movement. That's the movement towards the goal. And thinking about that instead is way more valuable than thinking about the 10 million. Thinking about the next task, who do I need to train so this system runs well, is way more valuable than thinking about how do I make the 10 million happen, right? So that's so vague and that's so unuseful and just puts things on pedestals, and that's, as we just discussed, very, very bad actually. So yeah, that was the second learning. Just don't think about the goals so much. Have goals, of course, because if you don't have goals, you're just drifting around. You don't know if you're going into the right direction. Even if you're going high speed, if you don't have a goal at all, you could go high speed in the wrong direction. So yeah, of course, have goals, but don't obsess over the actual goals all day long. Only obsess with the movement towards the goal. What are the actual action steps? What are the actual things that need to be done? And think about those 90% of the time. and not so much about the goal itself. Lesson number 3 I learned this year. You should walk around Earth radiating self-love and self-acceptance. And that again might now sound completely silly, I get it, but just try it for one moment. Just try to radiate self-love and self-acceptance. Try to internalize that feeling and radiate the feeling away from you, right? And just try to do that for a couple of moments, and you will feel completely different. And if you go through life with that feeling all the time, you will perform way better. And I did not invent that myself. I read that in a book again, and I did it. I applied it this year, and it changed everything for the better, because you feel so much better. You feel so much more content, and you make better decisions that are more truthful to your true self. And we will touch on how important that is in a second. But yeah, that's just lesson number 3. Walk around the Earth radiating self-love and self-acceptance, because I know that so many people are walking around Earth with feelings of guilt, or shame, or other lower level emotions. And I don't want to get too spiritual or whatever here, but I mean, I think it's pretty clear that if you walk here on this planet with these lower level emotions of shame, guilt, and so on, you're not going to accomplish anything big. Probably not even going to accomplish your goals, because it's very hard to accomplish anything worthwhile if you have these feelings of fear, doubt, guilt, and so on. Like, in these states of mind, if you have that, you're not going to accomplish anything big, if anything at all, right? And I mean, it's just very hard to accomplish anything in those states of mind. Arguably even impossible. So what's just critically important is to let go of these things. And I read a very, very good line in that same book, and I will reveal the book at the end, because it absolutely changed my life. And this was the initialization of this greatest year of my life so far. And I'll share it later on. But the line was, leave the courtroom in your head, because you are the one judging yourself. You are the one who's accusing yourself of some crime, and you're also at the same time defending yourself, right? So you're the accuser and you're the attorney in your head at the same time, and then you're arguing with yourself, and that's just so stupid. And stop trying to be the attorney in your own head. Stop trying to defending yourself. Just leave the courtroom. There's no sense in defending yourself against yourself. Like, it's stupid, and we all do it. We all think some thoughts about ourselves, about mistakes that we made in the past, about things that we should have done differently, about things that we do regret, and then we try to justify these things to ourselves, right? That's the mechanism of defending ourselves against ourselves, and that's just completely stupid. Instead of doing that, you should just leave the courtroom. Don't have this discussion, right? Don't participate in this trial. Leave the courtroom. It's that simple, because you can't do it in that case. You can't just leave the courtroom. Again, if you understand what I just meant, like all these things that you regret, the mistakes you made, that you're thinking about, that cause feelings of guilt, of fear, frustration, anger, whatever upon you, just leave the courtroom. It's fine. What's in the past is in the past. We all make mistakes. But now having a feeling of guilt is an even bigger mistake, right? Because it will stop you from doing anything great. So you need to let go of that. Just leave the courtroom and start to radiate self-love and self-acceptance. As silly as it sounds. Lesson number 4 that I learned this year. Reaching the next level is easy, but only if you can lower your importance. So lowering your importance is a concept from Vadim Sealand, an author, and he says, and I just found that so true in my life by applying that, whenever something gets too important to you, like, you will probably mess it up. You will probably mess it up. Your relationship, if it gets too important, you will probably mess it up. and make a mistake, and uh, maybe even at the cost of the entire relationship, right? If your business gets too important, you will probably make a lot of mistakes and mess things up and get ahead very slowly, and so on. You can apply that to everything, because if things get too important, we start to operate from a standpoint of fear sometimes, and we take things too seriously and then make worse decisions, and we procrastinate and so on, right? So we make more mistakes if things are more important to us. Funny, as funny as that sounds. So by lowering the importance, you just make it easier for yourself to reach the next level. And that's exactly what happened for me. I just started to take things less important, because they are not. It's all just a game. It's not as important as you think. It's never as important as you think. And by realizing that and seeing everything as just a game, it is so much easier to reach the next level. It is so much easier to make those 10 million in revenue. It's so much easier to make all of these things if they become less important to you. Lesson number 5. You must figure out what you love most and then pursue this thing every single day. Because we just touched on going high speed in the wrong direction. And if you don't really know who you are and who you want to be, you can't really go into the right direction. So chances are that you, even if you're working very hard, you might just be going high speed in the wrong direction. And that's bad, because we only have a very limited amount of time here on this planet. So we should not be going the wrong direction most of the time. So in order to avoid that, you of course must figure out what the right direction is. And for that, it's so vital to understand who you really are. If you're not sure what that thing is that you love most, then go back to your childhood. What have you been doing or have been wanting to do all the time when you were a child? Think about that. And I actually did that. And it came out that I was always fixing things. I was always running around with a screwdriver in my hand to fix stuff that wasn't even broken, but I was a small child. But anyways, you get the point. I was trying to fix things. I always enjoyed doing that. And nowadays I just express that through fixing parts of an 8-figure business that are broken, right? Because usually if a business or a specific part of your business is not producing the outcome you want, then there's something broken, either with the machine design or with the people operating the machine, right? So it's as simple as that. And that's what I do nowadays. I fix businesses so they produce more of the outcome that the business owner wants, right? And that was very valuable to find that out, and to find out what my actual genius zone is and what I love doing most. Because again, you only have a very limited amount of time, and you should not be doing too much of things that you don't absolutely love. And that's why you should definitely, in my opinion, invest time to at least make that thought experiment of, what have I been doing when I was a child all day long? Or what did I want to do when I was a child all day long? Has it something to do with fixing things, with experimenting with things, with talking to other people, analyzing other people, whatever it might be that you loved to do? Try to figure out what it was, and try to figure out maybe even profitable or very profitable ways on how to do that in your day-to-day life. Because yes, of course, I could be fixing motorcycles today, and earn 2,000-3,000 euros a month from that, or I like fix 8-figure businesses where one single business pays me 20-30k per month for that, and I fix multiple at the same time. So I mean, that's more profitable, I would say. And there's usually always a way in how you can express what you love most and what you really are at your core in a very profitable way. So, because yes, I mean, we still live in a material world and we still need to make money somehow, right? So that's lesson number 5. Find out who you really want to be, who you really are at your core, and bring this gift of yourself to the world and pursue it every single day. Give your best and detach from the outcome, right? So to find out what you love most then pursue that every single day. Give your best while doing that, and detach from the outcome. If you do that, I'm very, very, very confident that you can't fail. If you do that, if you give your best every single day, like the thing you love most, and you detach from the outcome, you don't worry if you're making enough money with this every single day. You don't worry about the views. You don't worry about all of these things. If you detach from the outcome for a while, it will go great. And learning number 6, and the last learning of this video, is doing things is way more important than doing things right. So just taking action and getting ahead is way more important than doing the perfect thing and doing it in a perfect way, right? Because we so often hesitate and don't do things because we're not really 100% sure, and we're not sure if we're not maybe making a mistake. And yes, if that mistake would be irreversible, then it makes sense to consult other people who have a believable opinion in that area, right? Don't consult people who are not believable about some topic. That's just stupid. Just talk to people who have a believable opinion in that specific area, and take your time in those cases. But usually, most things, it's so much better to just get started and just get into doing, versus then trying to do it perfectly. So action over perfectionism. Because usually we don't really know how to do something the right way. So it's smart to just start doing it. And then while doing it, you will probably figure out how you should do that thing and what the best way to do that thing actually is. And you almost never figure this out by waiting and strategizing and just sitting there. Usually you have to start doing things. And ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This was my 2025 recap. And if I had one most profound learning or one most profound lesson that I learned this year that caused the biggest change in my life so far, was to stop thinking about yourself so much and start thinking about providing more value to others. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a beautiful year. Thank you for watching. Thank you for every single like, every single view, every single comment. I appreciate you, every single one of you. And I'll see you next year.